Next, we're going to learn about transitions and animations. A transition is a type of movement in between each slide. An animation is a type of movement that you can apply to objects on the slide, such as pictures or tables. What I'm going to do right now is show you what a PowerPoint presentation looks like without any transitions or animations. This is what a plain presentation looks like without the bells and whistles. I'm going to go to the slideshow and click on the From Beginning command to start the show from the beginning. Don't worry, we're going to cover this much more in depth later about how to set up your shows and how to practice your shows. For now, I just want you to focus on what the presentation looks like without transitions or animations. Notice that as I move in between the slides, it's very plain. I'm going to return to my editing presentation mode, and I'm going to move to the transitions window, the transitions ribbon, so that I can apply a transition in between each slide to give it a little bit more of an interesting look. The transitions ribbon will show you the different transitions that you can have on the slides. If you click on the drop down arrow, there are more to choose from. Just be aware that some are a little bit more involved than others, and that's okay. How your transition appears and which transitions you choose really depends on the feel of your presentation. If you're presenting to a business-oriented type of environment versus children versus family, you might want to change your transitions so that it's either more fun, more ornate, or much more simple. I'm going to apply 4 different transitions so that you can kind of see what PowerPoint has available. First, I'm going to start with my title slide. I'm going to do something a little bit more ornate. I'm going to click on Curtains, Transition. When you click on a transition, it will give you a preview of what it looks like. Over to the right side, we see the Timings group. Here, we can also apply sound to our transition. So if you want a sound effect to play in between each slide, you can do that. I will warn you that if you have a very long presentation, a sound effect can start to be annoying. So just be aware that how long your presentation goes, you may or may not want to add that sound. The duration of each transition, this is done in seconds, so if you want it to be much shorter, you can click on the drop down box to make it a much faster transition or a much slower transition. Advanced slide, so you can choose to do it on mouse click, which means you have to manually move each slide, or you can click after a specified period of time. This comes in handy if you have practiced your slideshow and you know that you're going to be spending the exact amount of seconds, and this is going to be the same amount of seconds on each slide. Typically, when you set it for a time frame like this, you're showing a picture slideshow or something that might not require an actual speaker. Applied to all means you want the exact same settings and exact same transition to every single slide to keep it consistent. For the purposes of this practice presentation, I'm just going to add different transitions to each slide just to make it a little bit more interesting and show you what you can do. I'm going to click on my second slide, and I'm just going to do a fade, a simple fade. Again, it previews it and the slide. Notice that as I'm adding transition, we see these stars. When you see a star next to your slides on the outline area, this lets you know that you've applied an animation or transition. It doesn't specify exactly what animation or transition you applied, but it's just a quick visual cue to you to let you know that you have applied something extra to that particular slide. For slide 3, I'm going to add, let's do origami. And for slide 4, I'll do something a little bit more simple. I'll do a reveal. So those are the transitions. Those are applied in between slides as you move within the presentation. Now we're going to apply animations. An animation is applied to a specific object on the slide, like a picture. I'm going to apply 3 different animations. I'm going to have one of my objects appear and disappear, and then one of my objects just move on the slide. I'm going to go to my second slide where I inserted a clip art. I'm going to click on my clip art, and then I'm going to go to the animations ribbon. If you click on the drop down area, you'll see 3 different groups. You have the entrance, emphasis, and exit. You can have an object appear onto the slide by using the entrance group and disappear from the slide by using the exit group. An emphasis means that it will play at the same time that the slide appears during the presentation. Entrance and exit, it will enter and exit separately from the transition. Emphasis is usually right when the slide appears. A little animation can emphasize the object. So for this clip art, I'm going to have him enter and exit. I'll have it grow and turn. You can see a preview here. Notice that we see a number 1 next to my object. That indicates that there is 1 animation applied, and it is the first animation also. To layer animations, so if you want to apply more than 1 animation to a single object, you have to click Add Animation. If you just click on a new animation, it doesn't layer it, instead replaces the animation. So one more time, if you want to layer animations to the same object, you have to click Add Animation. I get the same options from the ribbon. This time I'm going to choose an exit, and I'm going to choose shrink and turn. So now we see the numbers 1 and 2. This lets me know that I applied 2 animations, and it's the first and second animation to this particular object. I'm going to go to my third slide, and I'm going to apply an emphasis animation to my son. So I'm going to click on the drop down box, and I'm going to have it spin. Number 1 appears. That's because this is the first animation on this slide, and it is applied to this object. If I wanted to layer an additional animation on the same object, I would click Animation. If I wanted to apply an animation to a second object on my slide, I would click on the second object and apply the animation from the ribbon. I don't want to apply an animation to this object, so I'm just going to let it be. So far we've added transitions and we've added animations. I'm going to replay my slideshow so that you can see what it looks like with the transitions and with the animations. Again, I'm going to go to slideshow and click from beginning. There we see when the first slide appears. Notice the fade effect for the second slide. It's a little bit more subtle. There's my animation, and it disappears. When you have an object that has an animation where it enters or exits, you have to either click on the mouse or tap your left arrow key to move in between those animations as you would move between slides during the presentation. Don't worry, when we talk more about presentation, I'll explain how to use your keyboard and mouse to move within the slides. And there's our emphasis animation for the sun. Okay, so that's the difference between having the transitions and animations versus not. A presentation with animations and transitions is a lot more dynamic. However, it does take time to switch between the slides, and it can be distracting depending on the type of presentation you are presenting. So keep that in mind as you're designing your presentation.